Need some coins for that God Squad you've always wanted? Check out redzonecoins.com for cheap and fast coins. You can use code ZERK for 10% off at checkout. Get 1,000,000 coins for $45.
The whole thing wobbin', wobbin', wobbin'. When I come around, got the whole thing wobbin'.
What's going on, guys? It's Zirksee coming at you today with another YouTube video, and today I am going to be ranking the superstar players from the Madden 21 beta. So I do want to mention here, as I said, superstar, not the X Factor players. These are only players that do not have an X Factor ability, that only have superstar abilities. If you want to see the video that I did going over the X Factor players, make sure you guys check that video out. It was actually my last video that I did. Now, before I go any further, I do want to give a shout out to Retro Takis for being a part of the Noti Gang. If you guys want a chance to be shouted out in the next video, drop a like in the vid, make sure you guys are subbed to the channel, turn the notification bell on, and comment down below Noti Gang. Also, I do want to give a big shout out to Fumble Forcer for being the one to actually make this tier list. He also made the X Factor one. So if you guys go to the comment section, the pinned comment, I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel. You guys can go ahead and check his video out. I'm sure he also did a tier list ranking of this as well. So some things I want to mention, obviously this is only based off of the beta, and I have used every single team so far in the beta. I have not used every single team extensively. I mostly have used, the Chiefs and the Ravens. I'll be the first one to say that I definitely use the Chiefs and the Ravens a lot, and we're going to be basing this off of how good are the abilities themselves, not necessarily how good are the specific players. So we're going to be looking at, like for Earl Thomas, he's a safety, right? We're going to be looking at the abilities that he gets and how good are the abilities for that specific position, not necessarily just the player, but more so the actual abilities. And I'm not claiming to be an expert on these abilities at all, because obviously, as I said, I have not played a ton, but from the little bit of time that I have played, I feel like it's a fun video to do. And also, happy 4th of July. So with that being said, let's get into it. So starting off with Earl Thomas. Now, if you guys don't know about Earl Thomas's abilities, if you guys have not been on Twitter, if you guys have not played the beta, yeah, Earl Thomas is probably the best player in the game. Like, no lie, Earl Thomas may be the best superstar player in the game. If he had an X Factor as well, it'd be insane. But the superstar abilities that Earl Thomas actually gets, he has deep in zone KO, which is improved reactions and knockouts, and deep inside zones, which I think is perfect for him because it's probably where you should have him. And then also film study. Now, film study has actually been a thing that a lot of people have been talking about. Is film study a good thing? Is film study a bad thing? I personally really like film study. So if you guys don't know what film study is, it actually shows the offensive plays after repeated play calls. Now, I want to say it's the third time. I could be wrong, but I want to say it's the third time that an offensive player calls the same exact play. So if you hold right trigger on Xbox anyways, you can actually see, sort of like if you're trying to show off your own defensive play art, you can see the offensive play art. Like, it will literally show you exactly what they're doing. If they're running the ball, if they're passing the ball, you can see the routes that the receivers run. I think this is awesome because it makes your opponent have to do different plays. It makes them have to run different things. Now, given there are some plays that I feel like we already know are coming, like in Madden 20, if you run into someone that's running a certain offense, you already know what play is actually coming, and it's still pretty hard to stop. So I'm not saying the film study makes it so you're just going to lock down your opponent, but if you know what you're doing, if you know how to make the right adjustments, it is awesome. And especially if they're running the football, if it literally shows they're running the football, you can just run commit. So I think that film study is probably the most overpowered ability in the entire game. Do I think it needs to be changed? Honestly, no. I think it's really good for the game, and it's going to force people to actually run different things on offense. So without a doubt, Earl Thomas, he's S tier. Now, next up is going to be Chris Godwin. So for wide receivers, right, he has slot-o-matic, which is pretty good, better cuts and catching on short slot routes. And then he also has mid and elite, which is improved catching on medium passes inside the numbers. So I'm going to be honest with you guys, I feel like wide receiver and cornerback abilities are really nothing too special this year. I feel like you may see a lot of people actually running abilities on different players, or at least going with abilities that you can use all the time, like jukebox or grab and go, because only being able to use it on certain routes definitely limits what you can do. But I do think for a receiver, a slot receiver like Chris Godwin anyways, slot-o-matic, so, better catching and better cuts and catching on short slot routes, and mid and elite, improved catching on medium passes on the number, it's okay. it's really nothing crazy, right? So for him, I'm gonna go with probably C tier. I'm not a huge fan of those abilities. And we also have got Grady Jarrett. Now, Grady Jarrett coming in has got El Toro, which is dominant bull rush wins from max pass rush points, which I have to say, you know, I'm kind of a fan of that being a little bit better in the pass rush game. And then also inside stuff. Quicker run sheds against inside zone plays. I'm going to be honest here, I think I've played 2 games total with the Falcons. He's not as dominant as Calais Campbell, but Calais Campbell is super dominant when it comes to the pass rush, or not necessarily the pass, but run stuffing, just because everything that he gets. I think Grady Jarrett is almost there with these superstar abilities that he gets. Of course, you know, Calais Campbell's an X-Factor player. He does have the run stopper X-Factor, or run stopper for the ability, and then he has the run stuffer X-Factor. So I don't think he's necessarily on Calais Campbell's level, but I love to see that inside stuff and then also having a pass rush ability. Now, next is going to be Rob Gronkowski. Now, Gronk, I will say this, is an absolute stud, but keep in mind, guys, we are not basing this off of how good is Gronk in the game, because it seems like Gronk just mosses people all the time, but his abilities, he has Tank, which is break, hit, stake, tackles, so that's pretty cool to break, hit, stake, tackles, and then also red zone threat, so something that only works in the red zone, improved catching versus single coverage in the red zone. So for a tight end to have Tank, which obviously they're going to be taking a lot of hit sticks from safeties and linebackers, and then red zone threats, which, you know, it's a pretty important area for the tight end. I think that's pretty solid. I do like him having an ability that allows him to use any time with the Tank, given, you know, if people know he has Tank, they can just not hit stick, so that's, you know, they can just get around that. And then his only ability is good in the red zone. It's solid, but again, I'm not a big fan of his abilities. I'm going to go with the C tier, and I think if he only had, like, red zone threat, probably would be D tier, because it's only one ability in the red zone. Now, next up is going to be Lavonte David. Now, in the Madden 21 beta, guys, it has been very bad for users, like, absolutely terrible for users. But in terms of who is the best user card that we have in the beta, I'm pretty sure it's Lavonte David, because for his abilities, first of all, he has mid-zone KO, which improve reactions and catch knockouts in mid-zones, which is obviously probably where you're going to have Lavonte David 90% of the time. And then, of course, Lurker, which is spectacular catch animations for lurking defenders. It definitely helps out with usering. So, Lavonte David, with those on a middle linebacker, I mean, those are pretty much perfect for a middle linebacker, to have Lurker and have mid-zone KO. So, for me, you know, maybe I wish he had, like, Enforcer or something a little bit more. But if we're just basing off of how good are those abilities for that position, like, how dominant does that make him? How much does it help him? I mean, I don't know if I can put him on Earl Thomas's tier, because I feel like Earl Thomas's ability, like the film study and the deep zone KO, that is just insane to have that film study. So I'm gonna go with A tier. I feel like Lurker definitely is a big help, and mid-zone KO obviously is a big help as well. Now, if he had something just a little bit more glitchy, like Earl Thomas obviously has the film study, I think he would be S tier. Now, next up is going to be Marlin Humphrey. So, Marlin has got short route KO and deep route KO. So, improved knockouts in man versus short routes, and improved knockouts in man versus deep routes. So, as long as you have Marlin Humphrey in man coverage, he's going to be pretty good, except for on medium routes, he won't have improved knockouts. So, it's decent, you know. Personally, I don't really run a ton of man, but I've seen a lot of people saying that they've been running man a lot in the beta. Now, given zone coverage is usually never good in the betas, it wasn't good in last year's beta, and then it got buffed a little bit. Still wasn't that good all Madden 20 anyways, but Madden 21, the zone coverages, to me, I think have been pretty solid. I've just seen a ton of people saying they like to run man coverage, so Marlon Humphrey fits perfect into that. Now, if this is a man game, if Madden 21 is in fact going to be a man coverage style of game, then Marlon Humphrey is going to be really, really good. So I think because they have the short route KO and the deep route KO, basically just eliminating short and deep routes, being able to a lot better on those, I don't think he's A tier, but I think that he's probably B tier. And next we have got Matt Ryan. So Matt Ryan has got sleight of hand, which is higher chance of success on pump fakes and double moves. Yeah, honestly, I don't really know anyone that pump fakes. And then he also has Fearless, which is immune to defensive pressure while in the pocket. So being immune to defensive pressure in the pocket is actually pretty good, because pressure causes a lot of things this year. Pressure actually makes it so you throw a little bit faster and your passes will be inaccurate if you feel pressured at all. They can be potentially inaccurate, I should say. So having Fearless is actually pretty solid for a quarterback. Not a fan of the sleight of hand, but keep in mind, you know, all these superstar abilities, the superstar players, they only get 2 abilities. So at least you do have Fearless, which is pretty good. And then sleight of hand, not a big fan of that. I don't think he's D tier because he does have the Fearless, but I'm going to go with C. Now we also got Mitchell Schwartz. So Mitchell Schwartz begins the game with blocker resistance, which is natural talent, and then edge protector, stronger pass protection versus elite edge rushers, which thinking back on it, honestly, using the Chiefs, I don't think that I've seen anyone beat Mitchell Schwartz around the edge. I don't think I've gotten beat around the edge one single time using the Chiefs. So I guess it's working. I mean, maybe the pass rush is a little bit toned down for the beta, I guess. Madden 20 beta, obviously pass was ridiculous. I think the pass rush is actually not that bad at all with the beta. If you're not user pass rushing, you probably won't get too much pressure, probably won't get too many sacks, which is good to see. So I guess based on that, and to be honest, I really haven't paid much attention to Mitchell Schwartz, but because he really hasn't let up any pressures as far as I can actually remember, I think I'm going to put him, I guess, an A tier. And next is going to be Ronnie Stanley. So Ronnie Stanley has got Edge Protector, and he also has got Secure Protector. So he has stronger protection versus quick block shed moves, and he also has got stronger protection versus elite edge rushers. Again, I've used the Ravens quite a bit as well. Same with the Chiefs. So they've really been my 2 main teams that I've used. I feel like kind of the same thing as Mitchell Schwartz. He hasn't really let up any sort of sacks or anything against me. So those abilities on an offensive lineman, definitely pretty good. I don't really think that he deserves to be an S tier, but again, I'm going to go with A tier. And the final player is going to be Shaquille Barrett. So Shaquille Barrett has got Strip Specialist, which is reduced tackle penalty while trying to strip the ball, which I like to see on outside linebackers. Honestly, it's kind of a cool little ability to have. And then, of course, Edge Threat. So he has dominant pass rush moves from the edge. Now, I think I've only used the Bucks like twice, so I haven't really got to see much out of him. Did he get a sack from me? I want to say yes, he did get at least 1 sack. Haven't really seen the Strip Specialist really pop up much, but of course, having him on the edge is pretty nice. So I haven't really seen too much from him there, from the little bit of games that I've actually used from him. However, I like to see that he has, you know, edge threat, which obviously you're going to have him on the edge the entire time. And then you can, of course, get more strips with him with the Strip Specialist. So I don't think he's A tier, but I'm going to go with B tier for Shaquille Barrett. Guys, with that being said, that is my rankings of the superstar players from the Madden 21 beta. Let me know down below your guys' rankings. How would you rank them? And of course, as I said, you know, I haven't really played the game a ton. I haven't played 50 plus games so far, so it's not like I've got to see all these abilities. You know, got a little bit more testing time with players like Shaquille Barrett or Marlin Humphrey to really test out how good they are. But with that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and if you did, make sure you guys drop a like on the video, and of course, hit that sub button down below. Don't take my ranking list too serious. You know, obviously, Madden 20 wasn't even out yet. These abilities can be tuned a little bit. Things can change. Ratings can change. Players can change. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time.